What's up, Fire Nation? If you don't play small and you're here to build, you're in the right place. I'm Miss Blue Fire, always taking you higher. Let's light it up. Hey, everybody. I'm going to make sure that you can hear me. So, people on the playback, you will, I will cut out this part of the video. I just need to make sure that I'm being heard. So, I see one person looking so far. It's a pity most of you can't make this time. 3 people. People, if you're there, let me know if you can hear me, please, so that I can continue with the lesson. We have a lot to cover today, and I made sure it's a very thorough lesson for you. So this is back to the regular programming. You can hear me? Hi, the screen is back. No problem, Missy. Yes, it's supposed to be black for now because I'm experimenting with not basically showing myself, focusing more on the lesson. So you know how we are, Miss T. We try different things as entrepreneurs, see what works best. Because funny enough, that last live that I did for this, where the sound wasn't working, it got a lot of views and a lot of shares. And I'm saying, is there something to this silent teaching where you just show the PowerPoint? But I felt uncomfortable with it. So I said, you know what? No, I prefer to hear my voice with it, even if I'm not showing my face. So we have a lot. I'm glad that you can hear me. So I'm going to start right now. Share screen. Right. So yeah, so we're gonna go into it real fast because we have a lot, and I have some situations for you guys. Hi, Kid Cartel. Blessings. If any time you guys can't hear me, it's not on purpose. So please write in the chat that you cannot hear me. If you hear me go too quiet, just like how if your children go too quiet, something wrong. If you hear me go too quiet, something is wrong. So just write in the chat for me, please. All right, so we're getting ready now. Let's get into the business language class. So now I'm going to give you some statements that you need to reconsider. Instead of I'm confused, you say, could you clarify this for me? Could you clarify this for me? Instead of I'm confused, right? I'm confused. Nobody cares what you are. You need a solution. What you're asking basically when you say I'm confused, basically you need the solution of it being clarified. So go straight to the solution. Remember, I teach you how to think these things. Big up Miss Jacobs, Queen. Good to see you. So just like how I teach you to think solution based, that is something I want to drill home to you, so that you don't have to listen, you don't have to do exactly what I do verbatim. Right? It's easier, but it's better for you to think this way, to think solution based. If when you're telling somebody you're confused, what are you really telling them? What are you really asking for? What are you really seeking? You're seeking clarity. So why not just not complain about being confused and go straight to requesting clarity? Could you please clarify this for me? Right? Now, First Nation, Fire Nation, we work First Nation, Fire Nation, you can try this instead. Can you simplify this a bit further? Right? So it makes the person active and you're not complaining. You're not basically saying you confused me or I'm confused because you were confusing. Certain statements like that, listen to me, certain statement like that makes people put their back against the wall and you don't get communication. We don't want that. We want what's best for the project. We need to remain diplomatic, right? We need to remain solution based, right? And we need to avoid conflict as much as possible. Not everybody who we meet in business, believe it or not, are going to be as emotionally regulated as us. Okay? Now, let's continue. Why it works? Because you take responsibility for gaining clarity rather than blaming the communicator. When you say something like, I'm confused, you're basically telling me you confuse me, right? Lots of people don't want that. So you keep them active in the thing and you say, you know what, could you clarify that for me? Right? And you also don't belittle yourself either by saying, I'm not understanding. Don't ever listen to me. Don't ever say that. You are weakening yourself when you say, oh, I'm not understanding. You're weakening your position. Never do that, right? Just ask them for clarity, because when you say I'm not understanding, it implies that something might be wrong with your understanding, or whatever they said went over your head. You never want to do that to yourself. Okay? Never. All right. So you take responsibility for gaining clarity rather than blaming the communicator. And this shows curiosity and it's professional. All right. Example in action: could you clarify this part for me so I fully understand? Everyday phrase: that's not fair. Nobody cares that it's not fair. Life is not fair. Okay. 1 second. Yeah. Life is not fair. This again is a complaint. That's not fair. We're not here to be fair. We're not your family or your parents. Even your family not fair. Never say that. What do you say? I would like to better understand the reasoning behind this decision, right? Or could you share with me the rationale so I can understand the context? In other words, how you made this decision. So you're basically showing them that you're inquisitive. And and if they're really not being fair, it will put them on the spot, right? To actually have to explain how it is that they got to this decision, right? Why? It replaces emotion with inquiry. It replaces you saying, "Oh, that's not fair. You're not treating me fair," with inquiring. Like basically, I'm curious now. How did you get this? Right? So you show maturity, you show emotional regulation, and a solution focused mindset. Don't forget this, Fire Nation. Please don't forget this, right? Here's an example in action. I'd like to better understand the reasoning behind this decision so that I have full context, right? Good. You're making this too complicated. Don't say that. Again, that's a complaint. Again, that's you accusing the person. Listen, very well. The person might be making it very complicated. They really might be making it complicated, right? But you're not in a, listen, you're not in an ego contest with people, okay? Get like focus on the work and getting your work done so you can go home to your family. All right? You're making this too complicated. No. Fire Nation, this is your phrase. This may be more complex than necessary. Can we simplify this for efficiency? I like this one. I use this one. Can we simplify this for efficiencies? In other words, for efficiency's sake, can we simplify it some more? Right? Why it works? Because you're not blaming, right? And you shift to the problem solving. It positions you as a clarity driven leader. Now, listen, it's natural for me because of the fact that I love clarity. I see clarity in everything. Clarity to me is peace. I love, love clarity. And if you continue along this road, let me tell you, Fire Nation, you're going to love clarity too. You're going to seek clarity with yourself. And it works in all sections of your life. You're going to be more clear-eyed in your decisions, more clarity in what it is that you actually want, clarity of the people who you should have around you, more clarity. All right? Right. And you value simplicity and productivity. If things are too complicated, something is wrong. If somebody, listen, that's how you know when someone really understands something. If somebody's explaining something to you and they're using all these big words where they can't explain it to even make a child understand it, that person doesn't understand it enough. These are facts. Pardon me. These are facts. If you really understand something, you should be able to break it down. All right? Good. So you avoid the shift, the blame, the blame shifting, right? And you shift to problem solving, right? So here's an example in action. This may be more complex than necessary. Can we simplify the process? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. This is action here. So now we're taking it off of the project. Say, okay, yes, it's complicated. It's more complicated than necessary. The action step next is, can we simplify the process? That's solution based. Never ever say, I can't deal with this right now. That's a complaint. And it sounds flippant. And it sounds like you are dismissing the person, right? This is the upgraded phrase for Fire Nation. I'm unable to address this at the moment, or let's schedule this for a more appropriate time. Why this is I love this, because you're basically saying I intend for us to get through this. So let's schedule it for a more appropriate time. So I'm still taking it serious. It's just right now is not the best time for it. That's fantastic. It lets the person know that they are not, you're not just putting them on the back burner and just dismissing them. Right? Good. Why? Because it preserves composure and it still preserves your boundaries. Right now, I can't deal with that right now. Or you know what? I only signed up for 2 hours of this today. Um, that's all I can give right now because that's all I thought it would take. Um, you know, I have to go right now. Right? Let's schedule it for another time. So that prevents emotional, like an emotional response, right? And it replaces it with your time management professionalism because you're saying, you know what? Let's schedule this for another time. Let's mark it down and let's have a set time for to deal with this. So you're showing the person that you're not dismissing them. You're willing to make time for whatever issue it is, right? I would say let's revisit at 3 p.m. depending on your schedule. And if they say no, 3 p.m. doesn't work for me because blah blah blah, then let them suggest. This way too, this is how you cover your behind, right? So no one can go and complain about you and say, oh, he said he couldn't deal with it right now. No, actually, I gave him a time, I suggested a time that we could meet to deal with it. But he said that he couldn't meet at 3 p.m. He's supposed to give me a time that works. That's how you cover your behind in a diplomatic way. Fire Nation, please understand what I'm saying. I'm not just going through things for you to just memorize. I'm going through things for you to protect yourself, right? So that you know how to think about these things. Next, it's not worth it. Never say this is not worth it. Basically, when something is not worth it, what are you saying? You're saying that, the ROI might not be good. ROI means the return on investment, whether it's money, time, or energy, right? So you're basically saying what it's going to take to have an outcome is not worth whatever the required energy is that you need to put into it. So instead of you saying it's not worth it, you're giving a solution, basically saying, listen, you know what? The value of this, it might not actually justify what we have to put into it to get it. So there's a solution. It's either we scrap it or you make the value and make it more valuable, make it worth more, right? That's what you're saying. So what do you say? You say, yeah, the value may not justify the investment or the return may not align with the required effort. Remember, return on investment. You're always investing something for output, people. Never forget that. It's never just money, right? Sometimes it's cognitive energy, right? It's your mental energy, right? And also it's your time that you could be using to do something else that you need to be building on or something that you've been procrastinating on, right? So, or if it's just a project at work, how much effort is going to be taken just for something that might come true or not? You have to think about these things because your time is a resource. I want you guys to always remember this, right? So that's a nice phrase. The return may not align with the required effort. Either you make it align, make the return high enough or greater than the effort, or we scrap it. That's the solution, right? Why it works. You replace the emotional dismissal with the strategic evaluation. You're basically saying, listen, man, look at this thing. For what is required to get this thing going, is it worth it? And to keep it going, is it worth it? Now, let's not even put our energy there, man. I've said that many, many times, and people say, like, you know what? You're right. Let's not just do things just to do them. You understand? Or just because people expect you to do them. Nah. Then you'll always be in a loop, Fire Nation. Listen, you know how many of those, the younger kids, well, I don't want to call it, well, they're kids for me, right? If they're in their 20s, they're kids for me, but they're adults. Like they said to me, like, what about this? Whatever, people expect us to do this. Say, yeah, I know. Or they will say like, they feel like as if they're in a loop or nothing's changing for them. Like nothing's changing for you because you keep doing the same things, right? Or you start doing something different for a little bit and then you don't continue it, right? Right? So nothing is going to, if you want things to change, then things have to change, right? It's just facts. It's also physics, right? So what to example in action, right? The value may not justify the investment. Let's reassess alternatives. So in other words, let's look at other options, right? Or let's reassess how you can make it worth my investment, right? So you'd be a real like a decision maker focused on ROI and impact. Workplaces, companies love this, right? When you sound like a decision maker, sound like I can trust you with decisions. Yeah, when we're running every minute with every stupid question, you can figure out things on yourself and you have a reason for why you did that. Focus on return on investment and impact. These you're going to find a lot over this channel, these two words, and also influence. It's not just the business of dancehall, it's the business period, right? Good. Next everyday phrase, I don't want to. Nobody cares that you don't want to. That's emotion again. I don't want to. So what? Lots of people don't want to do things. Lots of people don't want to do things and then end up they have to do it. You not wanting to do something is not our business. I don't want to. No. What do you say? I'm unable to commit to that at this time. Simple. I need to decline this for now. Simple. Right? Simple. And you don't have to give a long explanation either. That's a thing that I find in workplaces too. Especially when people who want to call in sick and they're just talking all of this stuff. Listen, just say, I'm not feeling well. I have to take a sick day today. I'll be back tomorrow. Simple. They have no right or no reason to try to find out what cough you have, why are you sick, how are you sick, all of that. They don't need to know any of that. Stop digging yourselves in holes. I'm telling you what I know. And I'm looking out for you, Fire Nation. Because I'm telling you this, if you keel over tomorrow, in 2 days, they will have somebody else in your seat. Okay? I'm not saying not to do your best, but make sure you know what the best is also for you. Okay? Because you will get eaten up. Okay? You will get eaten up alive. Good. Next. Why it works? Because it sets boundaries respectfully and confidently. Right? You protect your time and your energy while you're still sounding professional. Right? This is something like Miss T or Miss Jacobs would say, the classy ladies there on Fire Nation. Right? And also Success of a Hype too. All the classy ladies. I'm unable to commit to that at this time, so I'll need to decline. You don't have to tell them why. Listen, it's same thing even in the dating world or any kind of world. No is a complete um a complete answer. A lot of times they're not even interested in the why. They just want to see how they can jiggle your boundaries. That's why one of the things that I loathe is when I tell somebody a boundary or I tell them that, listen, this doesn't work for me here. Address me as such and such, right? In public, right? Because I have other things that I'm protecting. Other people are looking at my stuff. And they're going to say, why? Even though you don't tell them that. You tell them that address me as such and such here. I'd appreciate it. But in private, this is what I would like. Why? It's just to jiggle your boundaries. There's no reason for why. Maybe afterwards, after you respect the boundary, then you can come back and say, hey, how come you do that? That's different. But it's like almost as if you feel like as if you're put on the spot where you have to justify your boundaries to people. You do not have to, especially in the workplace. Ladies and gentlemen, remember I tell you all the time. Remember I tell you all the time, be kind. I'm a very kind person. I get that from my mother. But I'm not nice. I'll be nice because it comes with the kindness, right? But I'm kind, but I'm not. Don't be nice. Nice gets you run over. Okay, nice gets you chewed up and passed over. Be kind, but know the difference between kind and nice. Right? Nice cares if everybody likes them. No, be kind, but you can't live as it was Aristotle that said. I was reading it the other night. It was Aristotle that said it, or it was it Plato? One of Plato's poems. Basically, what he was saying was, live freely, live freely from other people, from the opinions of other people, from the good opinions of others. Don't quote me. I think it was in one of his poems. Live freely from the good opinions of others, or it was someone, or it was What is somebody I was reading the other day? Somebody's biography I was reading, and they were showing some of his works. Sorry, I go off on tangents sometimes. Let me check on the chat. Hi, Sarah. Happy Sunday, my dear. Happy Sunday. Good to see you. Good to see you. Everybody like up the live, please, as you come in. Right. So let's continue. This is stressing me out. Again, another complaint. We don't care if it's stressing you out. Everything stresses everybody out. That's just your stress level. They don't care. This is stressing me out. No. Basically, you need to be solution based. You tell them the truth that listen, you know what? It's actually becoming more demanding in some way, right? Right. It's actually becoming more demanding. So you're putting them on notice, but you always have a solution. So here it is. The situation is becoming increasingly demanding, right? And you can also say, I'll need support to manage this effectively. In other words, this is too much for me to handle, but you don't say that because you don't ever want to give yourself the light of incompetence. So you never ever say that I can't handle this or this is stressing me out. What you say is, all right, I need support to manage this effectively. I can manage it. Basically, you're saying I can manage it, but for it to be managed effectively, we need more hands and more heads on this task. And anybody who is supervising you would appreciate this. You know why? Because they want the project to be done effectively so they can mark it off their list too and they can have a good report to their boss. You have to start thinking about this part, right? About this, right? Hi, Boo Boo. Welcome, Boo Boo. Welcome, dear. Good to see you, right? So that's what you say. You have to be solution based, right? I'll need support to manage this effectively. In other words, so it would behoove them for them to get the support for you because they want it to be managed effectively so they can also move on and give you more tasks to do. These are facts. I need you guys to start thinking about the other shoes. I need you guys to start thinking about your supervisor's shoes or whoever is above you's shoes. Okay? You do that, you become indispensable in a lot of ways. Okay? Good. Why it works? Yes, it expresses a need for resources without the emotional leakage. Like, oh, this is stressing me out. No. You model self-advocacy, right? And solution-oriented communication. People love that. So here's an example I wrote for you, Fire Nation. This solution is becoming increasingly demanding. I'll need support to manage it effectively. Bam. Even if you know what? If something like that come up, guess what? Email it, please. Have it in writing, please. Write it down, please. Write it down. Because anything happens, this again is covering your behind. It goes on notice at this time, on that day. I informed whoever that this project is becoming increasingly demanding, and I did ask for support to manage it effectively. Anything that falls short after that, it's not your responsibility. Okay? I'm teaching you here things how for you to be able to cover yourself, right? And not just depend on feelings or the goodwill of others because that is a slippery slope. Okay? Hope, I always tell you guys, and I always tell the people who work with me, hope is a terrible strategy. Terrible strategy. Okay? Good. You're overreacting, never say it. You're overreacting. Again, that's another complaint. And again, you're putting the person back against the wall, they're going to react even more. Right? Remember, I was telling you the story. Oh, you couldn't hear me. I was telling you the story about this. Well, you know what? Yeah. So I was telling you the story about it where this young lady, she was in the meeting. It was just about five of us, but we're pretty close knit group. And she was kind of flying off the handle and stuff. And people were about to write her off. You could see it in the faces. The place was tense and stuff. And I said, you know what? Let's just take a moment to regroup and assess this calmly. And it kind of like let the air out of the room when I was able to say that because she stopped. It made her take a breath. and she composed herself, right? And she realized that we were looking out for her. You understand? And when I was in the bathroom after, she's like saying like, she was very thankful for it, etc. But then when she started to talk, you hear that her mother-in-law was visiting. Her baby was sick this morning. Poor woman don't even get no sleep, right? And who knows whatever condition she's under. So people always have personal lives, right? And sometimes it's just the same person, the same body. It leaks out at work, but it's for you to be that anchor. See what is happening. Don't allow people to continue rolling downhill if you care about them and if you care about their performance on your project. Don't allow it. A lot of people will allow these things to happen because, ooh, popcorn, ooh, I want to see her crash out, or ooh, I never liked her anyway. Don't do that. You know what I mean? I mean, some people will do that, but if you are really a leader, you won't allow that, right? And let me tell you something. Me and her never really, we kind of stand off from each other. You see, after that, she was my biggest champion. You couldn't say a bad word about me, right? Because I actually did look out for her. You see what I'm saying? She said, "Thank you so much for stopping me in there because I was about to cry." I was like, "Oh, you don't want that mistake." You know what I mean? Especially because we were the only ones in dresses, if you understand what I mean, without saying too much. Zip Code Entertainment, big up, big up, big up, big up, and welcome. Welcome to being here. Right? So you have to be able to look out for people without shaming them, right? Now, if you're by yourself, you can say the reaction seems stronger than the situation requires. Basically, this is you're kind of you can it was kind of like you're kind of overdoing it, but you don't really say that. The reason why this works, right? The reaction seems stronger than the situation requires is because you are allowing the person to become the observer. Spirituality ties a lot into business and money, people. You are basically separating the person's action from the person. You're not saying that you're overreacting. You're basically saying your reaction right now seems stronger than the situation itself requires. That allows the person to be wrong in a safe way. It's all psychology too. You listen to me. Being a leader is no easy task. You continue learning, but once you have in your mind that you always want to bring the best out of people or the people who trust them, their time and them and themselves with you will find ways to bring the best out of people. And you will start to understand people, meet people from where they are. Right? That is leadership. People follow you without feeling corralled to, and people actually trust the way you're going to treat them. You can't teach that. You cannot teach that. And that is why it's important for women in business who have big hearts. It's important for us to have excuse my language, strong ass boundaries, right? And to know the difference between being nice and being kind. Okay, luckily I didn't have to learn it myself. I learned it through my mentors as well as what I see. You understand? Nice gets you overworked and underpaid and passed over. And I already told you this before. Luckily I was born with mine, but if you don't have one, you need to develop a killer instinct. You really need to develop that. If you're going to continue to, and you will know, you'll find out. You'll find out. You have to develop that killer instinct. Not saying that you use it all the time, of course not, but you need to have the instinct. It needs to be there because you are going to have to use it. Right? Good. Let's continue. So the reaction seems stronger than the situation requires. Let's regroup. Why this works? Because it's de-escalating without invalidating. You're not invalidating the person's feelings, right? Right? But you're saying, you know what? The reaction right here, it seems stronger than what's required. So you know what? Let's take a breather. Let's take a 5. Let's regroup. Right? So you guide your emotional tone towards balance. So you're not blaming the person. Because let me tell you, when people are in this state in the first place, right? It's easy for them to get their back against the wall. It's easy for them to just become defensive even more. Right? Good. You're being dramatic. No. Let's approach this with a more balanced perspective. Can we look at this objectively? That's a good way to do it. You're putting the person on notice, that they are being dramatic, right? But you're giving a solution. Let's approach this with a more balanced perspective. In other words, your perspective right now is not balanced, right? Or it's not as balanced as it needs to be. Can we look at this objectively, right? Why it works? Because it calls for logic without shaming. And you know what's funny? The amount of men that you have to say this to that always let them lead with logic. No, a lot of most people don't lead with logic here. They don't understand separating facts from feelings. And I know you hear it all the time, but it's facts, it's true. And I don't understand how to separate business from personal. You have to teach them a lot of times, right? Let's approach this with a more balanced perspective so we can problem solve effectively. That's crazy. Never say this, because this might be a winning idea. Lots of crazy ideas are the winning ideas, honey. So when somebody gives you an idea or somebody says something that's crazy, it might be crazy to you, but what you want to do, you need to find out the rationale behind what it is that they're thinking, right? It might be an unconventional way of them thinking, right? Or it might be a unique way, but that doesn't mean that you can't explore it. Never ever shut down people. Listen, these kids nowadays, they think differently. They grow up differently. They grow up with computer, AI, and all. So sometimes when they have an idea, you never, even if you know it's rubbish because they don't have the experience and you have the experience and you know it won't work, doesn't matter. Explore it with them so they can understand why it won't work. So the next time they bring you an idea, not only do they know it's welcome and you'll make the time for them, but they know that you will they understand the way of thinking in order to bring an idea to you. Everything is a coaching, everything is a coaching. Why did I lose that word? And it's such an easy word, Julia. Really? Opportunity. Gosh, you're reading too much in Julia. You're losing small words. Everything is a coaching opportunity if you really look for it, right? Coaching opportunity. So instead of you saying that's crazy, what do you say? That's an unconventional approach. Huh, that's interesting. That certainly is unique. Let's explore its potential. So I use this. Let's explore its potential. Why? Because I want to explore it with you. If it makes sense, it might make sense. You might have taught me something. Who knows? But if it don't make sense, I want to show you why it don't make sense. So even so that next time when you have a crazy idea, you know it's safe to come to me with it, because guess what? It might be the golden one. Okay? Why it works? Because you stay open-minded while assessing the feasibility. Innovation requires curiosity, not dismissal. Right? You have to be curious, especially with younger people. Listen to me, older people. And I'm not one of the older people. So I'm not going to date myself. But listen to me. Younger people have a lot to give. People from different walks of life, from you, listen to them. A lot of people from the upper echelon don't like to listen to people who had more humble upbringings. And they miss out on so much. They create a bubble. Because you can learn from everybody. Everybody you can learn from. Because why? They had different experience and different eyes. You only have the two eyes in your head with your experience from your mind, and hopefully you're open-minded with your background. You have a narrow view. Why not get a view from across the board? That's why it's good to have good vibration, and everything is tied together. Fire Nation. It's good to have a clean heart. It's good to have good vibration. Why? Because you can see good in everybody and you can get along with everybody. These are facts. These are facts. Now, it's still important for you to learn what you need to learn to fit into certain societies. It's true, it's important. If you want to have a broad range, right, then you should take it upon yourself to learn the different ways of the people who you are going to entreat. These are facts. The way how you do business in North America is not the same way that you do business in China. They have a different code. One of the business classes that I took courses, because I take courses all the time just to brush up on stuff. They were talking about certain etiquette with China, with doing business in China. It's completely different than the etiquette here in North America. I should do a class on that actually. Yeah, I think I'll do a class on that. Even though a lot of people won't do business in China, it doesn't matter. It's good for you to know. It's all tied into the different culture. Big up Imatep, my brother. Big up my brother Imatep. Right? So these are things that you have to know, right? Like if you're going to do business at a certain place, learn the culture, learn the business etiquette, because you can lose deals over that. And it shows respect that you actually try to learn how they do things, especially if you're going to go visit their country. But I'm going to do a live on that actually, because that course was one of the best courses I've ever taken, right? Doing businesses overseas and learning those things. Anyhow, let's continue, right? So let's explore how it could work, right? It shows curiosity, learn from the young people, right? They have different experiences. But I mean, when you talk to them too, you realize that a lot of things haven't changed. A lot of things haven't changed, but they have a different way of looking at things. I can't believe this. This is unexpected. And this requires some adjustment. Solution based people, right? Why it works, it removes the emotional reaction and replaces it with poised acknowledgement. You remain composed and adaptable, right? This is unexpected. Let's adjust and move forward. Now, I have some situations for you because I want to put this in real life situations for you, right? For context situations that people always find themselves in and they're not too sure how to get out of it. Imatep says, the more things changes, the more they remain the same sometimes. That's right, Imatep. That's right, my brother. That's right. That's right. And I know you have a song for that somewhere. I know you have a song for that somewhere. You have a song for everything. You know? Yeah, Imatep is one of the misunderstood figures in life. There's a lot of good in that man. But it's for who to see it, right? Lots of us are misunderstood, right? But you have to see the light in people. And if you are someone who feels that part of your purpose is protecting the light in others, you don't get to choose which light. If you are somebody who feels like one of your earthly spiritual purposes is to protect the good and the light that you see in others and help it to grow, you don't get to pick and choose which light. If it's something that you feel like as if you should be doing, right? A lot of people, even too, a lot of people don't like that I like Vibes Cartel, even people in my family. But probably they don't see what I see, and that's fine, and that's fair. They probably don't see what I see inside of him. That's fine, and that's fair, right? Same thing with Imhotep. Lots of people don't like him. That's their business. But I see what I see inside of him. So that's just the way it is. Especially when you're God led, you won't do a lot of things that people necessarily approve of. But you're not doing it for their approval. You're God led. Sometimes that means that naturally people who can get with that program will fall off. And that's fine once you are God led. So, just keep that in mind, people. Right? Lots of men, lots of people are misunderstood. And maybe it's not for you to understand them. But there's some people that do, and just continue on your way. That's just the way it is. Let's continue. So, how to professionally say, do not mistake my kindness for weakness. Guys, ladies, you have to learn this, especially you empaths, big-hearted people like myself. I tell you again, you need to have firm boundaries. Who don't like it, bite it. And in order to do that, you need to have enough self-confidence to not care if people like you or not. Right? That's why I'm saying to you, nice will get you is the mindset of you care that people like you or not. You're not hurting nobody, you're not doing nothing wrong. You're being true to yourself and true to spirit. Who gives a damn what they think? Again, I remember I went back to that poem that I was reading. Live your life freely of the good opinion of others. Once you know you're not hurting people and you're following spirits, do good. Continue to do good. Okay? But you need to have firm boundaries to protect yourself. Though I'm being generous, please know there are limits. I had to say this before. I was one time and that was it. Meaning you're saying I give freely but not endlessly. If you cross my boundaries, this nice version of me disappears. You're basically saying it in corporate speech. Though I'm being generous, I'm helping you with this right now. Please know that there are limits, right? And you have to mean it. I'm just telling you how to say it nicely instead of you saying F off and end up in HR, right? Again, you can say, if somebody is trying to say you're not where you are now, or you're teaching somebody who is younger than you, right? And they have to go through this. Because as you rise in the ranks, you have different tests. So it will take different responses. But say this is a junior person, right? And somebody else is there who was there before them and they're trying to bully them, right? And let me tell you how a lot of these workplace bullies work. They would be nice to you in front of other people or act like, oh, nothing's wrong when in front of other people. But when you are by yourself, they try to bully you. I've seen them try that with people, right? So what you say is, I choose to lead with respect. However, if the respect isn't reciprocated, I will change how we engage going forward. Simple, right? Simple. You're basically putting them on notice. So basically, the way I'm treating you right now is because I'm choosing to treat you this way. However, right, if you don't reciprocate that respect, you're going to see some changes. You don't want to find out what those are, right? So you're setting the boundary that you're not interested in fights, but you will not be disrespected without consequence. You need to be able to put them in their place professionally, right? Or you can say, you know what, I'm kind, not because I'm passive, but because I'm intentional in my dealings with others. You let them know that, listen, I'm a careful person. That's why I've been kind to you. Again, not nice, right? Not nice. Some people you don't want them to like you, period, anyway, right? Don't take my kindness away. Of course, you have a song for that. You are free to do what you want to do. Alternate. That's right. And I tell you, same of us, a song or something. All right. Let's see. How to exit unwanted conversations at work. This is a big one, right? I'm going to jump back into my tasks. Let's connect later. Basically, you're telling them, listen, but guys, if you do this, you have to move. Don't sit there still scrolling, right? So you have to get up and move. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna jump back into my task. Yeah, let's connect later. I'm pretty sure whatever they're saying was not important enough for them to connect with you about it later. It was some kind of gossip or some kind of foolishness that you don't really want to hear. Okay? Right? You don't have time for that, people. Understand that yes, it's true, you spend 8 hours at work, but listen, be clear. Remember I told you about clarity, right? If they keep trying to explain, just repeat the closing. Let's connect later. Move and walk away. That's your boundary. You're not being mean. If that person is so thin-skinned that they get upset at you for this, that's not somebody that you want to really have any close dealings with anyway, because you're going to have to keep babysitting them and saying, oh no, they didn't mean that, man, or oh no, they didn't, or we didn't mean that. It gets tiring. Okay, gets tiring. So what you do, let's connect later, right? Let's connect later. Now, if you're with somebody who is senior though, or it's a more personal conversation, say it's not a senior person, but it's a very personal conversation, or it will take too much attention right now, you just say, I'm really glad we had this talk. I need to step away for now, but I'd love to continue this another time, right? Especially, okay, so even if you're at the office party or you're at, the office place, right? Listen, even though you have a cup in your hand, drink less than everybody else. Okay? Drink, listen to me, Fire Nation. When you go to your office parties, it's fine to have your drink in your hand. Drink less than everybody else. First of all, you shouldn't be drinking that much anyway, especially if you drive. But have a clear eye, okay? Or you can have something non-alcoholic, or you can mix it and nurse it the whole night. Especially as the night goes on and people become more tipsy and feel more comfortable with each other and more tipsy and more tipsy, keep your eyes open, okay? Keep your eyes open, and you probably realize a lot of things that you wouldn't know, you didn't realize, right? In the office. Also, don't stay too long. Okay, so I'm really glad we talked. I need to step away for now, but I'd love to continue this another time, right? Now, how to professionally say, stop being a pain in my you know where. You just say, okay, you know what? Let's keep this productive. Like seriously, like I don't really want to hear the blame. I don't really want to hear. I don't want to. I really don't want to hear the complaints. Boo Boo says there's nothing wrong with being clear and concise. Black women, when they set boundaries, are stereotyped as having an attitude. That's true, right? That's true. They are stereotyped, but I mean, so what? Set your boundary anyway. That's the difference too with not caring about being liked. Set your boundary anywhere. The people who are supposed to be around you will be around you. Your boundaries for you. That's fine if they stereotype us. Never say it's going to be an easier way. It's not. Listen, the things that the blocks. Listen, I could tell. Just imagine, right? Anyway, you know what? Let me not even go into that because we're on the internet and I have to keep my wits about me for my business. But yes, set them anyway. So let's keep this productive. You know, especially when you're there at the party and somebody coming and them trying to gossip or stuff like that. You know, or are you at the water cooler drinking and they call it cooler chat? People come and they're saying, oh, they're going to complain about this, or oh my goodness, I can't believe he did this now, right? So you know, let's keep it productive. Or yeah, or you can just pretend like you didn't hear and just say, yeah, thank you so much, and walk away. Right? That's one of my tricks. I don't want to give you too many, not tricks, but that's one of my tactics. Right? When somebody says something that is trying to draw you into some kind of gossip, like just pretend like you never hear what they said properly and be like, oh yeah, cool, thank you so much. All right, I'll see you later. So they are like, well, she clearly didn't hear me. And then they'll realize that maybe it's not worth repeating, right? Tactics, people. Polish tactics, right? Okay, next. How to professionally say, stop being a, oh, what's the main concern you want to resolve right now? When people come and they're complaining to your desk, let's get some clarity here. What's the main concern that you want to resolve right now? What is it? Tell me. Let's work through it together, right? Meaning you're just making noise, so get to the darn point, right? Get to the darn point, right? When being easy to work with becomes your brand, this can happen a lot. So I'm going to tell you some personal lessons that I had to learn in my early 20s, right? To become the person that I am today, because easy to work with became my brand because of the fact that I am easy to work with. You understand what I'm saying? But I always had firm boundaries. But some of the things that I realized is silence can assign responsibility. When you're good at something and you do it, and people always expect you to do it, right? No, put your boundaries in, okay? Boundaries clarify power, they don't remove kindness, right? So if people behave otherwise to your boundaries, it's because they're trying to manipulate you. These are facts. If you have boundaries and you say, no, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm going to think for myself here. I don't agree with you, right? And they act hurt or they feel upset or angry or give you an attitude because you decide to go a different route. That's manipulation. They want you to agree with them. Why? Why is it so important that I agree with you? I think it's more important for you to agree with yourself in your own life. These are facts. We have to be able to look at things with different eyes, I tell you. Right? Also, know that praise can be transactional. Be wise enough to discern the difference. A lot of times people will praise you, but it's transactional because they want you to do something for them, right? Right? Or they want to seem like as if they're cool with you. It's fine. I'm not saying not to take it. That's fine. You'd be a fool not to take it. Refuse no good thing, but understand what it is. Be wise enough to know to discern the difference. And you will be able to tell when somebody is praising because they want you to do better or they really care that you did better, right? Or they're on the journey with you. You can tell because when you're not supposed to be praised, they're still there and they'll give you their 2 cents, right? Right? So understand the difference. And understand too, a lot of times people who praise you, they're not on your side. They are not on your side, a lot of them. You have to be able to spend time with people. Big up Merkaba. You know how to defect. You have to, it's a skill, Merkaba. It's a skill, my dear. It's a skill. And they will deflect on you too. So don't feel bad. That's why I say you need to develop that killer instinct because they would do the same thing to you. You think HR is for you? HR masters at deflection. HR is for the company. Let's think. Who's paying HR? Huh? Who's giving them bonuses? Huh? Huh. Oh, okay. Right. Follow the money. Next, emotional maturity is often exploited. Yes, this is something I had to learn in my 20s. No, this one was not something that I learned through mentors or just from watching people. This I learned for myself. And it gave me pause when the person said to me, "Yeah, Julia, just be the bigger person. You're always the bigger person." And I stopped and I said to myself, "Er?" That was a moment. You know, like when they say you have those moments in your life that just bring you like I hit you like a ton of bricks, like the clarity, right? I was like, barf? Wait a minute. And you know what? It's my fault. Yeah. Because you're always expected to be the emotionally mature one. You're always expected to be the person who solves problems, right? And kind of put yourself aside for the benefit of the project in a lot of ways, right? Or not bringing drama to a situation that could be very inflammatory. So that becomes exploited because when you're in a situation, people will still want to protect you, of course, but they feel they know that you know what, she will protect the company or she won't act in a way to embarrass us. That can be often exploited, right? So that's why you need to be firm. Or we just say, no, wait a second. That's fine. And being emotionally mature does not mean that you take all the blunts all the time. Listen, be emotionally mature that you know, don't do that again. Right? People need to have consequences for their behavior. Right? And even though people know that you won't explode, doesn't matter. You have to set your boundaries. Right? And that is a part of being easy to work with. Because people can see that you're corporate, people can see that you're very careful with your tongue, people can see that you even are careful in how you approach situations and people. So they kind of feel relaxed with you, which is great. It's great because they feel that trust with you. They feel like as if they can trust you and trust your behavior because you're consistent. And that's great. That's not a bad thing to have. Right? It's not a bad thing to have. However, remember, your boundaries are for you. Right? Because here is why, and this is why I put the next one here. Being trusted does not mean you're going to be protected. I had to learn that after this. I had to learn this because of this. Not because people trust you and they know that, okay, certain things I know she won't lose, or certain things, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that they're going to protect you, and that does not give you any protection. You have to protect yourself. I'm telling you what I know, just like my mentors tell me what they know. so I don't fall in certain pit holes. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen to you, but I'm just saying recognize it if it tries to peep through the door, right? Always put your, that's why I'm so firm with my boundaries. Since I was that age, I had to learn the different types of boundaries. And sometimes do you test people to see if they really do respect boundaries or if they're kids in a certain way, right? Sometimes you do something small just to test to see the emotional maturity of this person. And they don't even know that is really, it might sound devious, like, oh, you test. No, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of text, sleep, and mark that. Let me see how you're going to handle this situation. The situation naturally arrives. It's not like as if you manipulate a situation. The situation arrived, but you can say, let's see how this person reacts to this, because the answer is no. So let me see how I'm going to deal with it. Right? Tells you a lot about the person. Whenever you see how people react to no, and see how people react when you don't give them what they want, that tells you a lot. And it will also inform you on how deeply you deal with that person for your own professional sake and your own branding sake. See, I have to pay attention to a lot of these things because I'm a shark when it comes on to my branding and my brand, because it's who I am, right? It's who I am. It's a lot of who I am. I'm not saying who I am who I am, but I'm just saying, like, in this human experience, I know that I'm a soul having a human experience in a body. I know all of that. But I'm saying in this human experience with what I'm building right now, my brand is very, very, very important to me. Anybody who is worth their salt, their brand is very important to them too. Right? That's why you need to do what's right, keep your heart clean so you don't have to second guess yourself all the time. Be true to yourself, know that you're God led, so people don't bring you into their foolishness. Right? Know that you're God led, work from there and be true to yourself. So at least if you make a mistake, it was your mistake to make. You are doing the best with the information that you had at the time. Right? Good. So part 2 was supposed to be for next week, but we can do a little bit more because I want to go through some of the situations for you. Like when you're calling sick. A lot of times I see people calling sick. Guys, you don't have to be talking so much. Hi, look like. Big up yourself, Big up yourself. When people show you who they are, believe it. Don't make it. That's true. That's true. That's true. You have to use discernment with that. Big up Luke Clark 2704. I'm glad to see you. Blessings. And I hope the content finds you, finds well for you. Now, when somebody is back and forth with you, you just say, listen, this level of back and forth isn't helpful. Right? Meaning, basically, you're making things harder than it needs to be, but you don't have to tell them that. Right? Now, how to respond when someone passes you their work and they say, oh, you're just better at it. You're just better at it. Listen to me. Let me tell you, this is not because you're weak a lot of times. It's because you're more competent than the person. So people will use weaponized incompetence. Even though they know how to do it, they'll pretend like they don't know how to do it or it's going to take them so long to do it. It's weaponized incompetence. It's because they don't want to do it. Right? So you can tell them that, you know what, please you can let them know that it's not because you're strong at something or you're good at something means that it's your responsibility. Remember, I told you you were hired for some things, you were not hired for everything. Right? So what do you say? I appreciate that. That's such a nice compliment. I appreciate that, and I'm happy to give you feedback, but I can't take this on with my own work. I'm not saying to say it as spicy as I said it, right? But basically you're saying, I appreciate that, and I'm happy to give you feedback, but I can't take this on with my own work. In other words, listen to me. You think you're the only one with work to do? I have my own work to do too. Right? Right? And you can say also, let's be clear on our separate roles, so this task doesn't keep landing with me. Basically, you're telling them that, listen, let me tell you what my job description is, but you're not telling them that in such a bad way. Right? You're saying, Let's be clear on our separate roles so this task doesn't keep landing with me, right? Always separate being good at something from being responsible for it, right? Fire Nation, I'm telling you the truth. Always separate being good at something from being responsible for it, right? You never ever have to prove your value by over functioning. Clarity is kind. If you think that you have to prove your value to people by over functioning, overdoing, doing other people's tasks too, you're not in the right place. You're going to burn out and they'll suck you dry. I'm telling you, you need to develop your killer instincts, especially when it comes to protecting yourself. Okay? Now, let's go over this. How to call in sick even when you're not. It's fine even if you're not sick. Sometimes you need a day. That's why I don't like the 5-day work thing. I've been saying that for years. From before people, even from before England came out and started to say it. I've been saying it for years because it's torture. How can you work? You work Monday to Friday, right? You need a rest day, so Saturday. But guess what? Saturday is the only day that you have to do your business or certain things that you need to do, especially if you have children or you run a household. So Saturday is not off really, right? And then Sunday come and you have to get ready for the week again. So it's just burning people out. That's something that I never ever agreed with. It's not because I'm not lazy, by no means. But the 4-day work week is better for mental health. So anyhow, this is what I have to say to you, Fire Nation. Right? Mental break. Exactly, Merkaba. I know you know it. Right? And not only mental break, but a break from dealing with people who you didn't choose to deal with. It's a big thing. Listen to me. I don't go around people unless I choose to be around them. But when you work, you can't choose the people who you interact with. These are facts. So sometimes it's basically you are forced with personalities, right? That you would never choose in your everyday life. All of these vibe energies mixing, right? Sometimes you need a break from that. These are facts. These are facts, right? So remember, you don't owe anyone details. You owe notice. And listen, I'm a CEO and I'm founder and CEO and I'm twice. And I'm telling you this, you only owe notice. Don't with the, oh, I'm so sick. My tummy hurts. I think I ate something bad. I might log on. I don't know. We don't want to hear that. Listen, first of all, you sound unsure that you're sick. You might log on, you might not. You think you eat something bad. I'm so sick. My tummy hurts. Tell that to your doctor. First of all, you sound unsure. And secondly, some of these managers are not them shouldn't be managers. They just reach there because they've been in a position very, very long, right? And they're more useful to keep. Some of them shouldn't be managers. And a lot of them would be invited with follow-up questions. Oh, so how's your tummy? You ate something bad, eh? Oh, what did you eat? Especially in the future. And especially, can you imagine? And what if he's lie you're telling? You don't need to put yourself through this. Like, don't lie, but don't give yourself reasons to don't put yourself in a lie that nobody never asked you for. Right? You don't have to do that. So, what you do? Listen to me, Miss Blue Fire, telling you again. You do not owe details. You just owe notice. So, simply say, I'm not feeling well today and won't be able to work. I'll be back tomorrow. Clean. That's it. Clarity. That's it. I'm not feeling well today. Full stop. I won't be able to work. Full stop. I'll be back tomorrow. Full stop. No, you can say it nicely. Not saying that you don't say it nice. I'm not feeling well today, and so I won't be able to work, but I'll be back tomorrow. And that's solution based, right? Clean. That's it. Right? Sometimes your manager will also think out loud and it becomes your task, right? Because they're thinking out loud and you're there with them. So it becomes their task. No, no, no. Right? It's true. Some leaders externalize their thinking. I do that sometimes when I'm talking to I talk to myself a lot when I'm thinking with myself, right? If you're competent, their thoughts can quietly become your responsibilities. It's like an invisible workload creep. Like they'll be thinking, we should really put all the people that won the raffle along the years in like one folder. And then you're like, yeah, you know what? We really should. And they look at you. You really should, right? Listening does not equal ownership. So this is adding to your workload. It's an invisible workload creep. I know people who have worked with managers. They know about it. They know about it. It happens. So this is what you say. This sounds like an idea in progress. Can you clarify what action, if any, you'd like me to take? Boom. Sounds like you're still thinking it. Basically, sound like you're still thinking about it. Tell me exactly what actions you'd like me to take. Right? Right? Wait. Before I go on. And right, what you can do too is if you have a lot of workload, let me tell you what I've done. And it works like a charm. Work like a charm. If you have a lot of workload, right? You can say, yeah, you know what? Clarify to me what actions you'd like me to take. And also with my current workload, let me know what is not priority so I can push it down so that I can take on this task. Right? So it's a either or. You're basically saying that, okay, right now I have 5 tasks to do by Friday. It's Wednesday. You know how laborious these tasks are. Which one should I drop to take this one on now? Basically, that's what you're saying. So that person now, your manager, would say, you know what? No, do what you need to do since you're at capacity this week. We can look at it next week. Fine, perfect. Perfect. Or they will say, well, what do you have on the list? They say, well, we have this, I have this. They're like, okay, you know what? Scrap that one. We can do that one next week. Great. Guess what? You still have 5 on your list. I'm telling you things to professionally protect yourself. Right? Right? I'm telling you things that would to professionally. Hi, Gunners, one side. Bless up, bless up, bless up. Good to see you, my dear. Good to see you. And hi, Horace Morrison. Blessings, blessings. And Boo Boo said, as well as mindful on their job descriptions, others ask what others. Yeah. We went through that. I think you weren't here for that, Boo Boo. It's there on the beginning of the live. We spoke about that, right? Blessings, Gunners and Horace. It's good to see you, right? So yeah, so I'm giving you things to. It's Ricky Tan. Oh, Ricky Tan. Oh, you change your name, man, to Gunners once. Okay, blessings, Ricky Tan. I didn't know it was you. Hi, King One Drop. Hi, King One Drop. Blessings. But you know what, Boo Boo? Not to cut you short, but definitely you were right about this. I was just saying that we spoke about it before. So what you said is actually definitely 100% true, right? As I always say, you were hired for some things, not for everything. King One Drop. Blessings and big up yourself in the building. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. When someone asks you for honest feedback, but they become defensive, listen, there are some people like this. They say, oh, give me an honest feedback. And when you give them a feedback, it's like they won't take it. They won't take the note because their ego is so wrapped up in being right. And when they realize that they can't be right, the ego make them try to be less wrong. So they start to rationalize. And I'm like, guy, you can't get over the fact that you could have just pulled out your phone and just looked. Stop right there. Nothing else. This is the steps that you could have taken. Just take the note and move on, man. But you can tell it's just so much ego that when they realize that they can't be right, what they do is they try to make the case to make themselves less wrong. Nearly never kill buddy, right? Anyway, sometimes people want validation. They don't want the truth. They want you to agree with them, right? When they react emotionally, the risk shifts onto you. So feedback is safest when framed around outcomes and not identity. So basically, remember, I always tell you guys too, separate the action from the person, right? So you say, you know what? Since feedback feels sensitive to you right now, I'm happy to focus strictly on measurable outcomes. Right? So if they ask you for honest feedback, but they become defensive, you just say, you know what, it seems like as if it's a sensitive topic right now. And they'll probably say, no, 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 it's not that say yet, but right now the way you're reacting to what I'm saying. So let's just focus on the measurable outcomes. Let's just look at the facts of the situation. Right? Here's the one that I had to learn from. When you are the only one expected to be emotionally mature, right? Meaning the emotional label is often gendered or assigned to the most self-aware person, right? But listen to me, Fire Nation. Being regulated and doing the work for yourself, it does not mean that you must regulate everybody else. That's their responsibility. Look how hard it was for you to grow to be that person who can stop and regulate your own emotions and deal with things perspective. Look how much that took for you to grow into that person. Do not stop people from their own growth. Don't regulate other people. If it's somebody that you love, yes, that's fine. That's somebody that you love, you can say, well, maybe you need to look at it this way. But it's up to them to look at it. You can't just keep soothing people. They'll never learn. Okay, it's not mean. It's being kind. That's what I mean by being kind and not nice. Be kind. Kind in means sometimes you have to let people suffer because that's the only way they will learn. These are facts. So what you say? I am open to constructive conversation when everyone is ready to engage respectfully. In other words, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm not going to deal with you and your rude behavior, right? But when everybody is ready to engage respectfully, then I'll be open to a constructive conversation. Right now, it's not constructive, and you don't get any more of my time, and you don't get any more of my cognitive energy. Straight up, you have to be this way. You have to, because you might think that using people and being mean to people stop at certain tax brackets. It does not. Clearly, it does not. Right? And another thing too, don't think. Listen, this is something that I actually had to. You see, when you have young people and they have great ideas, and like say when they go into meetings, right, with you, okay, when you go into meetings with you can see if they're going to be intimidated a bit by the people who might be in those meetings. But you talk to them, you say, listen to me. Yeah, you're going to be around a lot of people with a lot of bankroll and a lot of impressive titles, but that doesn't mean that their ideas are any better than yours. So if you have something to say, you can raise your hand and say it. Okay? That is very sobering to a young person. Tell the young people on your team that thing, because that will let them know that you're showing that they're not just there as an arm piece to show that you have people in your company. No, they're there to actually learn and feel comfortable in certain rooms, right? And let them know that their ideas are valuable, or they wouldn't be chosen to go with you to the meeting. These are facts. You have to, if you're again, you see, it ties right back to what I was saying before. If you are going to be in this leadership thing, you need to be able to see the light in people and be able to bring it out. Now, some people are gifted to be able to see the light in people more than others, especially underdogs and stuff like that, right? And some people have to develop it, but it takes experience if you don't have the gifting. These are facts. If you don't have the gifting, it will take experience. Sometimes you can have the gifting and the experience, right? That's why when I see light in other people, I protect it. And I try to fan the flames and make it brighter. Fan the flames, yeah. I love fire. So, you know what I mean? People have it in them, but you just have to have the eyes to see it. Now, when a decision is made without you, but you're expected to defend it, meaning you're being positioned as a shield, not a decision maker. That is very dangerous. Sometimes a decision is made without you, right? And you're on the same team, but you're expected to defend it. Why didn't they have enough respect for you to pull you into the idea to hear your 2 cents if you're supposed to defend it as well? If you're on the same team, and it's not like as if you're reporting to the person. No, there's hierarchy, that's true. But I'm saying if you are equal to these people and you're on the same team, your input should form a part of the decision as well. Pardon me, it depends on how it's set up. But if you're supposed to defend it as much as them, then your input matters, right? So you are being positioned as a shield and not a decision maker, right? This can lead to a credibility risk. It's a credibility risk, right? Representation without authority, it creates credibility risks. These are facts. That's why, as business owners as well and leaders, you need to let people know who have the authority to represent you and your brand. Hint, hint. Same thing with what was going on in dancehall recently. Who knows? Who knows? You have to let people know who have the authority to represent your brand and you, or you face a credibility risk. These are business lessons, but it also works for the business of dancehall. It also works for leaders. That's why I always tell you guys, take the time to think. Because when you apply these lessons across the board, you can see why intelligent people do the things that they do. And you'll be less in your feelings. Because you'll understand, especially people who have a lot to lose. You have to be able to think without your own mind. Okay? Continue. Meaning, yeah, so I wasn't part of the decision making process, so I can't speak to the rationale behind it. Sometimes you can do that. That's a bomb, though. That's basically outing your team. Unless you say it to your teammate personally. Don't say this in public, though. Like, give them a chance to self-correct. That's another thing that gives you the brand of being easy to work with. That's something that I have as well, right? Where I had to learn those lessons. It's called a golden bridge. Golden Bridge. And Sun Tzu talked about it also in The Art of War. That's why I told you I always reference that book. And you guys should go back to that live, those lives that I did on The Art of War, because I covered it extensively. But Sun Tzu talks about giving your enemy a golden bridge, an easy way out to avoid the conflict, right? Sometimes it's worth it. So what you do, you say this to your teammates. I wasn't a part of the decision-making process, so I can't speak to the rationale behind it. This gives them a chance to self-correct. They will either say, no, but we texted you. What number do you have? We called you. Or no, we know that you were on vacation, so we didn't want to disturb you. We were thinking about it. So they can actually explain themselves, right? Or if they have no excuse and explanation, guess what? They know better than to leave you out next time. This is how you teach people that if you want me to speak to the rationale behind something, you need to put me in part of the decision-making process if I'm on the same team with you at the same level. Because some people will try to just leave you out. This is how you protect yourself, right? I'm telling you what I know, people. When someone frames your boundary as a personal rejection, people do this. These are the insecure people who don't have boundaries for themselves, right? It's emotional manipulation, even if it's unconscious. Boundaries trigger people who benefit from your access. These are facts. Your professionalism is not a personal slight. It's not a personal slight. It's just professionalism. You just tell them, listen, this isn't personal. It's about maintaining appropriate working structure. It's not personal, right? No, you can't come to my bachelorette party. I didn't invite you. It's not personal. I like you fine, but I like you at work, right? You have to set your own space and your own ways. If you're not a fit, you're just not a fit. If you're not a fit, then you're just not a fit. right? Compliments can be used to soften exploitation. Recognition without resource support leads to burnout, right? When you're given praise publicly, but extra work privately, this happens a lot to people. Then praise them publicly, and in private, you get a lot of extra work, right? They compliment you because it's soft the exploitation, because they're exploiting you. Okay, you have to be careful of people like that. Recognition without resource support leads to burnout. They're burning you out, right? So you say, I appreciate the feedback. Let's discuss workload so expectations stay sustainable. This is a good one. Because you're saying, I appreciate the compliment, basically. But let's talk about the workload so expectations can stay sustainable. So you don't expect me to do more than I'm supposed to do. Now, this happens to people a lot. When you're asked to train somebody who will replace you or someone who will outrank you, right? This is a this is one that happens. All right. Now, knowledge transfer without role clarity, it will undermine your position. Teaching somebody should never cost you leverage. Remember this. Now, I'll tell you how to deal with it. You say, I'm happy to contribute within a defined scope. Can we clarify how this fits into my role and the growth plan? You're supposed to have you're supposed to know what your role is, what you're being paid to be there for, like what Boo Boo was saying earlier, right? And you're supposed to have your own growth path as well. So that's fine. I'll contribute within a defined scope. What exactly am I supposed to teach him? And how does this help me on my growth path? How will me helping them within the defined scope actually help my career as well? That's basically what you're asking. And listen, if they're confident enough in you doing that, it's okay for you to ask that. Get some clarity. Are they going to replace you? Then you don't have a growth path. Do you? And get it on record. So guess what? Even though this might be a one-to-one meeting and you talk about it, guess what you do? As soon as you go back to your computer, you write, hi, Miss blah, blah, blah. Just to recap what we just talked about in the meeting, I asked you about how to clarify this role, how this will clarify my role and my growth path. And you told me that the defined scope in which I'm supposed to work with Miss blah, blah, blah is such. And you let me know that this will actually, if done successfully, help me with my growth path in such and such a way, blah, blah, blah. So that means you have it on record. You have it on record. Give me 1 second. Yeah, right? So can we clarify this and how wait, hold on, let me make sure you can hear me. Can you guys hear me back again? Let me know, type in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear? And I see at least 8 of you around. Somebody type and tell me if you can hear, please. I know you might be listening, but if you type, it would be helpful so I can continue the lesson. Okay, let me give you a little intermission.
Family, I want to welcome you into something bigger than just a channel. From this moment forward, we are Fire Nation. Why fire? Well, because fire is more than heat. It's passion, it's energy, and it's drive. Fire transforms everything it touches. And that's exactly what we're here to do with our lives, our businesses, and our future. Fire Nation is not just about me, it's also about you. You are the spark that refuses to die out. You are the flame that lights up your community. You are the unstoppable blaze determined to break barriers, build wealth, and change the financial destiny of your family for generations to come. When you step into Fire Nation, you're not just a viewer or a subscriber. You're part of a movement of visionaries, entrepreneurs, and empire builders who are rising together. Fire Nation means passion for self-growth. Fire Nation means energy to grow successful businesses. Fire Nation means unstoppable drive to become multi-millionaires and billionaires, lifting your family and your community with you. Together, we're not just chasing success, no. We are rewriting what's possible. This is your nation. This is your fire. And together, Fire Nation, we are unstoppable. So, Fire Nation, are you ready to burn brighter than ever before? Drop a fire sign and claim it. Because once you're a Fire Nation, you carry that power everywhere you go. This is Miss Blue Fire, always taking you higher. Enjoy the life.
You can hear me, right? Yeah, must have hate that video. So let me just try it as an intermission. Let me try it as an intermission. I'm supposed to tell me why I muted it, but I'm not too sure yet. I'll wait for his notes. All right, so let's go back. We're almost done, people. Right, so when you ask the train to tell us what you say, I'm happy to contribute within a defined scope. Can we clarify how this fits into my role and growth path? Right? When your question is met with, just trust me, bro. Just trust me. No, not good enough. Because that shuts down transparency and it removes accountability. Right? Healthy systems welcome informed questions. So what you say, I'm happy to move forward once I understand the reasoning. Don't tell me about just trust me, bro. No, just trust you. No, tell me. Let me understand the reasoning behind this, please, because I'm not moving forward to you off a cliff. Basically, right? When your work is constantly being edited but never discussed, this is a pet peeve for a lot of people. You edit somebody's work, you should discuss it, right? Silent revision, it undermines authority and it prevents your growth, right? And any kind of feedback without dialogue like that is control, it's not collaboration. Tell people why you edit their stuff. Tell people what they went wrong with. Don't just edit it and then submit it. Explain to them why. So you say, I'm open to edits. But I appreciate a conversation so I can align moving forward. Like, tell me why it's edited. Tell me why it wasn't good enough, or explain your rationale behind the edit so that I don't make the same mistakes. Again, it's simple, right? I'd appreciate a conversation so I can align moving forward, right? That's what you have to do, right? Agreeableness often gets rewarded with more labor, not advancement. Don't think just because you're agreeable, right? And you're easy to work with. Don't think that that means that you automatically they're going to advance you. That doesn't mean that. It just means that they're going to give you more labor, right? I value collaboration and I also want to ensure responsibilities remain balanced. Okay, that's what you have to do. Now we're back to everyday phrases. Don't say this is pointless. Or you say, this may not yield meaningful results, right? You can try this instead. Can we reassess the intended outcome? Almost done, finished, soon done. Why it works? Because it challenges efficiency without negativity. So you sound strategic and focused on impact and outcomes, right? Can we reassess the intended outcome? This may not yield meaningful results, right? Everyday phrase, I don't care who's right. No, no. Let's focus on resolving the issue rather than assigning fault. This is a good one to use. Let's focus on resolving the issue rather than assigning whose fault it is. Doesn't matter whose fault it is right now. Let's focus on fixing what's wrong, please. And then afterwards, we can deal with who was responsible or not. The priority is the solution, not the blame. This is what I said to you about thinking this way, Fire Nation. You need to be able to think solution based in everything. In everything. All right? The priority is the solution, not the blame. Not right now. So it shifts from ego to resolution. Let's work together to fix the problem instead of fighting amongst each other to assign whose fault it is. We can figure out who's responsible after we fix the problem, please. But right now, it's leaking. Let's fix it. Right? Sometimes you have to get people back in focus. You see what I'm saying? In a nice, in a kind way, but you're still firm. Let's focus on resolving this rather than who's at fault right now, please. And thank you. Everyday phrase, not again. No. It appears we're encountering a recurring issue. Yes. Because the fact that you say not again, basically you're saying that it's recurring because it happened before. So it appears we're encountering a recurring issue. That means that this issue has yet to be solved. Let's identify the root cause to prevent repetition. Remember, you're solution based. Let's identify the root cause of this problem to prevent repetition. Right? Why it works? You move from frustration to prevention. Okay? You move from frustration to prevention. Almost done, fire people. Right? They don't complain. You don't complain about them. We eliminate patterns. That's what we do. We eliminate patterns of misbehavior and misthinking. We don't complain about them. Right? We're encountering a recurring issue. Let's address the root cause so it don't keep happening again. Why does this keep happening again? Right? We need to figure out why it keeps happening again so we can stop it from happening again because it's wasting time. Okay? This is a waste of time. This may not be the best use of our time right now, respectfully. Could we redirect our efforts where they'll actually have greater impact? Right? So you refocus in the team. Refocus the team. Right? Or you can say, could we refocus on high impact tasks? Like, how does this affect the price of rice in China? Right? Why it works? Because it keeps your morale intact and it guides towards prioritization. Sometimes you need to guide people back to what really matters. This is not a top on the totem pole right now. This is like midway or is at the bottom of the totem pole. We don't need to be spending so much energy and time. And since we're all here right now together, let's focus on the things that we need to get done immediately. Right? You uphold productivity with tact. This may not be the best use of our time, gentlemen. Can we refocus on high impact tasks, please? Let's refocus. Because right now we're all over the place. You have to be able to talk to your team that way. And in time, they will respect you enough to listen because you're right. And you've been right in the past, right? Never ever say this. Nobody listens to me. This is a whining little baby, snotty-nosed baby. Don't say that. What you say, I'd like to ensure that my input is being considered. You're setting your boundary here. My input needs to be considered too. Okay? May I share my perspective once more for visibility? May I share my perspective once more for visibility? I'd like to ensure that my input is being considered. That's important. Why it works? Because it elevates your voice without the victim language. We don't want to hear the victim language. Nobody ever listens to me. Or they always listen to her. Or they always tell her. Or la 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 la. Oh, God. Jeez. Give me a solution. and tell me who you are. I'd like to ensure my input is being considered. Simple, clean. Go for the jugular, people, in a nice way, right? You advocate for yourself confidently and professionally. That's what you need to do. Advocate for yourself confidently and professionally, right? I'd like to ensure that my input is being considered before we finalize this. You always change things last minute. If it's your friend, you can say that. If it's somebody that you work with, you don't know, there are frequent last minute adjustments. You basically let the person know, right? You remove the accusation and you seek a process improvement. You're basically saying, we need to fix this process, fix this process. Let me know what's wrong as we go so I can fix it so we don't go all the way to the end and then there's some last minute adjustments. This shows maturity and it shows a solution based communication. In other words, this is not working right now. You telling me last minute things to fix, it's not working. When I give it to you from the beginning, please tell me what needs to be corrected so we can move on properly. Okay? Can we aim for earlier alignment to avoid last minute changes? That's a nice way of saying what I just said. There are frequent last minute adjustments. Can we align earlier moving forward? There you go. Sweet, right? But firm. But I don't feel included. Okay, listen. Yeah, you work with certain people. Listen, the higher you go up is the less people care about your feelings. You know why? Because it kind of gets sandpapered out. Because they had to go through the change. They become a little less empathetic to certain things. Because we had to tough it out, so we expect you to be able to tough it out too. I don't feel included. Oh God, in your feelings. That's not what you really want to say. What you want to say is, I would appreciate being more involved. Great. That's solution based. In other words, we need to make you more involved. And you would appreciate it. Could I be included in these discussions going forward? That's another way to do it. Right? Why it works. It turns complaints into empowered self advocacy. Right? You request inclusion with confidence rather than emotion. Example in action, I'd appreciate being more involved in these decisions moving forward. Simple, I'd appreciate being more involved in these decisions moving forward. Stop blaming me. No. I'd like to focus on solutions rather than fault. Let's shift to how we can resolve this, right? Because it diffuses the conflict and it brings conversation back to progress, right? You refuse to participate in any kind of drama. You're not spending any cognitive energy or any emotional energy or any time on people's drama. You choose leadership instead. All right? We're almost done. You're confusing me. We did that before. I'm unclear on your point. Or could you clarify this in a different way? We talked about that at the beginning. Right? This is boring. Don't say that. What you say? This lacks engagement. Is there a way we can make this more stimulating or growth oriented? You can say that, but have a solution too, Why it works? Because it removes the negativity and it focuses on improvement. We demonstrate a mindset of growth and the value creation, right? So this lacks engagement. We can add a development element to it. You can say that, right? So I see you guys next week. This was a great, great long show, but we had to have it done properly. But this week too, I'm going to have a PowerPoint on the psychology of fans for our business of dancehall playlist section there. And also, I've been doing some chess games. I need to start to record them so we can put those into the me against me chess playlist as well, right? Yeah, people. So, as I was saying before, there's light in people. A lot of men are misunderstood. I think Cartel is very much so misunderstood. And I think there's a lot of light in him. And I think he's on the climb. on the plan to enlighten from what I can see, right? And from what I can feel. So, a lot of people might not understand it, but it's not for you to understand. These are facts. That's just the way it is, right? Anyway, bless up yourself. And we're going to have, yeah, so I'm going to do the PowerPoint studies on fandom and the psychology of the different levels of fans and explain the different types of fans that people are. Thank you, Boo Boo, for the super sticker. Blessings, right? So that and I'm also going to chop up those two business lessons into different portions, the cartel portion and the Sean Paul portion, so people can look at it. Remember, I tell you people to look at dancehall, and for the new listeners, look at dancehall like a tree, right? You need the roots and you also need the branches. There are different functions, right? And different functions in any art, in any industry, will give you different legacies because you're after different things. Bless up yourself, bless up everybody for being here. And I intend this lesson to be good for you in your everyday life and your personal life. See you soon.
Fire Nation, listen to me. You don't log off and go back to playing small. You take what you learned and you execute. This is why Fire Nation exists. To rise higher, to build smarter, and to change the financial future of our families. I'm Miss Julia, A.K.A. Miss Blue Fire, always taking you higher. And wherever you go next, you carry our fire with you. Fire Nation, we rise, we build, and we're just getting started.